Spread across the desk was an assortment of small pieces of paper about 2 inches by 3. On each scrap of paper, my father had written the name of one of the presidential hopefuls, along with a number of cryptic notations about their platforms. Across the room, on the small black and white TV, the debate raged on. Small black and white heads talked about the important issues of the day. As the interviewer asked questions of the candidates, my father marked the small pieces of paper. Occasionally, he rearranged the names in a new order. I watched closely, trying to make sense of the notations and the small pieces of paper. The next morning, my father looked through the pieces of paper, made a couple of additional notes, and put the papers in an envelope. Turning to me, he said, "A woman could be elected as president in your lifetime." I don't remember what I asked him next, but he explained that women now had more rights than they had before. He thought that a girl living in the early 70s would grow up to be president. The first woman president could be someone like you, he said. That was 42 years ago. 2 years ago, I stepped into the voting booth and voted for a woman president. On my way out of the polling station, I wept as I recognized that I had fulfilled the long-ago prediction of my father. I voted for a woman president. This thing that had seemed impossible had come to pass. I thought about all the people in my lifetime and those who had come before to make this moment possible. Hours later, I drove home. The radio turned off because I wanted to hear the news at home with my sweetheart. I wanted to celebrate with Joe. When I opened the door, there was a palatable heaviness in the room. "What happened?" I asked. And Joe responded, "She didn't win." Oh, crud. Really? The next day, I picked up a couple of pizzas for an evening gathering here at the church. As I ate a slice of pizza, the new president spoke on the news. I watched this incompetent, abusing, lying, thieving person who is opposed to everything I believe about love, life, and the hope that democracy can be, gloating on the television above my head. I looked around at the people eating pizza like this was just another day, and not the end of the American dream. The end of democracy, the end of freedoms I have taken for granted. I started wailing. Now, I'm not a very demonstrative person. I was raised in New England. I am flinty, reserved, and well-trained to keep my emotions under wraps. But in that moment, I was filled with red-hot rage, anger, and fury. Tears streaming down my face, I picked up my boxes of pizza and ran outside. I doubled over into a metal chair, wailing uncontrollably and rocking uncontrollably. People came running. "Are you okay? Ma'am, do you need some water? What happened?" Through tears and convulsions, I tried to explain, "I am not okay. I'm not okay. We elected that man. I can't. The news." I looked around at these people gathered around me, and I saw that they were scared. I was scaring them with my fury, with my rage. What on earth were they going to do with this pizza-welding, middle-aged white lady falling apart in the parking lot? They were rightly afraid that I might tear down the patriarchy right there in lovely Village Center, Summerlin, with my bare hands. I forced a smile at these concerned folks, took the offered napkins, mopped up my face, took a deep breath, and said as clearly as possible, "I'm sorry. I was upset because I had not seen the news since yesterday. I'll be okay. Thanks, everyone." They dispersed. I boxed up my rage. I boxed up my fury. And I went to my car. Every day since then, I have woken up to the worst possible news. Children separated from their parents, recordings of these children wailing in cages along the border, promises to return the children to their families, parents sent back to their countries of origin, their babies stolen and put up for adoption, genocide. The environment, climate disaster, women coming forward to report sexual abuses and being threatened and harassed and discounted, the free press threatened, truth questioned, fake news. White supremacist groups marching in the streets, rigged elections, Russian investigation, rising authoritarianism, spies poisoned, partisan judges appointed, people dehumanized, dismantled healthcare, disenfranchised voters, dismembered reporters. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And I might start swearing. Every day, some new, awful, terrible thing happens in the public sphere. Some part of the dream is taken down. Some piece of democracy is chipped away. Every single day, I mutter out a bland, "Oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's bad. Oh, very bad." And my heart breaks a little more. And I want to hide. Every week, I wonder how to offer you comfort, hope, or inspiration during this terrible time. I wonder how to be relevant when the news cycle turns so fast. If we had lit a candle for every broken promise, every broken heart, every broken body, our entire lot would be filled with shimmering candles. We might create a place to set down our broken hearts and be healed in each other's presence. I wish I could stand before you today as a social justice warrior, wearing shiny armor, wielding a sword above my head. I wish I was like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where teenagers slay vampires and demons every single night. I wish I felt that we were going to be able to take back our democracy. And I'm not speaking about the upcoming election. I'm talking about the larger system of authoritarian rule that is showing up all around the world. The leadership that we have in office now is the symptom of a larger movement away from democracy, away from egalitarian society, away from equity, compassion, freedom, and valuing each person, being, and planet. I am fearful that we have already lost. I am fearful that we have already passed that point of no return. I am fearful that we have already descended into a self-made hell on earth. It's hard to know how to move forward, how to find hope in the midst of despair, and I can't offer any comfort. We are looking down a hard, painful road ahead. But the road has never been easy. As a white person, I have been taught that our entire society is set up to support me. My education system, the places I have chosen to live, the jobs that I have been hired for, all have confirmed that my life is valid and supported. However, it has not always been this way. I was not given this way of life out of the kindness of the hearts of wealthy land-owning white men. The rights that I have were fought for with blood and tears. My white male ancestors fought for safe working conditions, a 40-hour work week, weekends, vacations. White men who did not own land fought for the right to vote in elections. Later, my white women ancestors fought so that I could vote. In my lifetime, my ancestors fought so that I could get a credit card in my own name, not in my husband's name. My ancestors fought so that I can have access to birth control outside of marriage. My ancestors fought for social justice. But sometimes I wonder if they were really fighting for just us, just their descendants, just me. These rights were fought for by those who came before me and handed to me as though they have always been there. As a white person, I have been lulled into a lie of equality and fairness, and we are all the sameness. Those in power whisper in my sleeping ears, don't worry about those folks on the other side of the tracks, in that neighborhood, on that reservation. Just buy yourself a new Apple phone. Get a few more apps. Just scroll through Facebook one more time. And never mind that we remove those federal election safeguards to prevent certain states from setting up systems to prevent people from voting, dramatically limiting voting by African Americans. And never mind that new rule that passed that says that you have to have a street address to vote, making it nearly impossible for Native Americans living on reservations to vote. With the seemingly rapid shift towards authoritarian rule, white Americans are waking up. And we really only have one choice. We have to join the battle. This is the battle that Native Americans have been fighting since Europeans landed their ships on this continent. This is the battle that Black Americans have been fighting since we brought them here against their will. This is the battle that all people of color have been fighting. This is the battle that the LGBTQ community has been fighting. This is the battle that women have been fighting. This is the battle that poor people have been fighting. Even though I often feel homeless and overcome with despair and I cannot see the end in sight, I know that I have a reservoir fueled with anger. Not the red-hot anger that community organizer Ernesto Cortez says causes us to act irrationally and misdirect towards the wrong people. But I have the cold anger that I can use to focus on what I can do, to change oppression, exploitation, and injustice. And I know that I have leaders. I have Indigenous leaders and Black leaders and queer leaders who have been in the fight for the long haul. Indigenous Black queer leaders who have been at the intersection of the resistance, fighting in the mud of colonization, white supremacy, heteronormative patriarchy for centuries. Leaders who have been fighting for justice, all for all, not for themselves alone. Leaders who are resistant and resilient and can teach me and you how to stay in this fight for the long haul and for the common good of all. Because as our reading said this morning, social justice demands that all people, regardless of their birth circumstances, are entitled to a fair chance at life, that every person has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. May it be so. Amen.